All right. Welcome, Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. It is December 30th, 2024. If you've been paying attention, whether that's in these classes at Monday nights to any one of us, if it is on our podcasts or on our social media, we've been talking about 2025 and what is to come in 2025, as well as being prepared for next year. And, I can't tell you enough how excited I am to see what's going to happen this year. I've been preparing for probably 6 months. And at the time, we had no idea who would be in the administration. Now we know what direction the country is going to go for the most part. And what I want to talk about tonight is not allowing outside circumstances to affect your business. And, I think that the last 4 years is a pretty good example if you look around at people that have allowed, or businesses that have allowed, outside circumstances to affect their business. And I want to give you some tools for that and some steps to avoid that, but also some things to encourage you as you get into 2025. And I'll say it again, like I said a couple weeks ago, if you have not done your homework on next year, i.e. written out your goals, figured out your why, and know what your values are going to do for you next year. For those of you New Year's Day, first of the year people, you still have time. You've got tonight and you've got all day tomorrow until midnight to get that done. And I would not go into next year without your goals and or a plan, because if you do, business is going to pass you by. Business is going to pass you by if you don't know what you're doing going into the new year. Whether you work for somebody else, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're retired, whatever that looks like, have a plan for 2025. Go for the ride with the rest of us. I've already seen a lot of exciting things happen in my life as it relates to being prepared for 2025. And I'm ready. And I want everybody in this group to be equally as ready, if not more so, because you got 3 people that lead this group that are willing to help you get there. So, all right. Let me give you 4 steps. First of all, then I'm going to talk a little bit about them, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. I don't know how long this is going to last on my side, because I've got crazy notes all over the place. I've been writing stuff down all day in preparation. All right, number 1, and I'm gonna give you the 4 steps. I'm going to touch on them a little bit. All right, so number 1. Eliminate anything getting in your way from taking the action that you want to take. Eliminate anything getting in your way from taking the action that you want to take. Number 1. Number 2, begin taking that action. Begin taking that action. Number 3, improve the efficiencies of those actions. Improve the efficiencies of those actions. And then number 4, make sure you unlock compounding the thing that's working within those actions. Okay, so I know that might seem a little bit complex, but make sure you unlock the compounding that's working within those actions. Okay, so this is not only not allowing circumstances to get in your way, but this is also how you can take your goals, your game plan for 2025 and achieve them. All right, so let me touch on each one first of all. All right, eliminate anything that gets in your way from taking the action that you want. All right, first of all, election distraction is over. All right, you're gonna have probably, I was gonna say 3 years of clean air, but no, it's probably going to be more like 2 years of clean air, because now the election cycle's turned into 2 years instead of 1. All right, you got 2 years of clean air. Election distraction's over. You at least have the next year, because there's no primaries that you're gonna have to worry about. All right, with that being said, don't let things from the outside distract you from what you're doing. Okay, and let's just take COVID as an example. All right. COVID shut down the world. And maybe COVID shut down where you live. But COVID did not shut down our ability to make money if you didn't allow it to. Okay. COVID was an outside distraction. COVID was something that got in people's way if you allowed it to. Now, I chose not to let it get in my way. I actually chose to use that as a jumping board to do more business. All right. And I'll tell you, the first year of COVID, between 2019 and 2020, whenever it started, I made over $200,000 sitting in this seat right here at this desk. COVID did not get in my way. And so if you can eliminate the things that are keeping you from creating that action, especially outside distractions, then you can be focused on what you're doing, right? So focus is the number and the quality of the things you say no to. Focus is the number of things and the quality of things that you say no to. So think about things that you do every day. Again, we're talking about things that get in your way. Think about things that you do every day that you can say no to create your plan. Instagram, right? Got it up right there. Somebody lost some tires. This is a distraction, right? If I can say no to that all day, sure, I could look at my screen time. It'd be pretty embarrassing, no doubt about it. But if I can say no to that all day, I've just created more time and space to work my plan. If I can say no to things, and how many times I say no, I'm creating more space to find the success. So I want you to look at what your distractions are in your life, in your daily job responsibilities, make a list and start saying no to the ones that aren't working towards your success. Okay. Social media is an easy target because we all do it. There's a lot of tools to get away from that, or get away from your phone in general, whether it's text messaging, social media, searching the web, whatever that looks like for you. But the amount of times you say no and the quality of the things you say no to is going to help you become more focused on what you need to do. All right. Eliminating distractions, right? And I already used COVID as an example as being a big distraction. Don't let the outside circumstances bear weight on your life. Stay focused on what you're doing. Okay. In other words, we need to look at what we can control. So looking back at my example when COVID hit, and yeah, we're a couple years past that, but looking at that as a clear example, when it hit, not allowing it to control, I knew that I need to lean into my consulting and coaching. I needed to lean into the businesses that I could run from my desk because the rest of the world was doing the same thing, right? And so I started creating ways that I could lean into and generate revenue. Okay, I'll give you an example in the alcohol industry, because the company that I was working with also was looking for ways to lean into it. So RNDC is the second largest distributor in the country. They distribute via trucks to bars and restaurants, liquor stores around California. Obviously, everything was shut down, so it wasn't like people were interacting. But what did happen is online sales took off. So what RNDC did is they created a team that didn't exist before that was strictly online. What I did is I reached out to that team and said, hey, look, we're in the same place. Nobody's going anywhere. Can I do some Zoom calls with your team and educate them on my products? Could I have samples shipped in to their individual homes so that they can try my products at their house? Yes, that was more expensive, but I wasn't willing to sit around and wait for COVID to blow over to make a sale on wine and alcohol, spirits, right? So that's what we did. We built a relationship with the online team. We shipped them samples. We built, a customer base that was willing to buy online. And all of a sudden, our online business took off that we never had before, right? So we didn't let what was happening around us control what we were going to do. And that was to sell some product. And my philosophy on that business was, as long as I can stay in business when COVID is over, I'll be in business, first of all, probably more than most companies, and I can continue the momentum that I kept during COVID and build off of that, which is exactly what I've done the last couple of years. Matter of fact, tomorrow that business will be sold officially for a fair amount of money that I would have never had I not kept it alive during COVID. Okay, so look at what you can control. Don't be distracted by what's happening around you. Focus on what you can do. All right. An interesting example of what I just said about COVID. I worked for Kettle One Vodka for 10 years as the vice president of marketing. One of the stories we told about that distillery is that it's been around since 1691. And during World War II, they heard the Germans were coming. They're out of Holland. Obviously, the Germans got Holland pretty good. One of the pieces of their production was they rested vodka in tile-lined tanks underground. And so you imagine, put the vodka in these tanks, cover it up, and they would let it sit there for 2 weeks. When they heard the Germans were coming, they filled them up, but they covered them up with dirt too, so nobody knew they were there. And in their minds, they were preserving and protecting their asset. So when the war was over, Kettle One Vodka was the first spirit company to be back in business in Europe because they had product available immediately that had been saved underground. That was them not allowing their outside circumstances to affect their business when they could get back to business, right? So I want you to look at that. Eliminate anything, get in your way from taking the action you want, okay? And by the way, looking at COVID, until you're personally, physically not able to work anymore, there's always opportunity to work and find success. You might have to dig a little bit deeper, which is what I did during COVID, and I know others did as well. But until you're physically not able to work anymore, there is opportunity out there. And I say this knowing that we're going to go into a great year in my anticipation with our leadership in the country. But we all have things that happen in and around us, regardless of the politics, right? Can't just put all the weight on, who's the president of the country. But we all have these things. And I want you to know, until you can't physically work anymore, there's always opportunity if you dig deep enough. And by the way, this is a great place for you to lean in to Rod or myself or Rachel or probably anybody else in this group. If you're trying to figure something out and you don't know where to lean into to make that money or to keep moving, reach out to us and we can help find a way because we're better together, right? I know that's a line, but anyways. All right. Next thing, begin taking that action, right? So if you've got your plan, your goals for the year, don't wait to start taking that action. So now we've decided we're going to eliminate outside distractions and anything getting in our way. Now we've got a plan. What does that look like? Okay. Why doesn't it start tomorrow? Why doesn't it start right after this call? I want you to begin taking that action right away. Whatever that looks like for you, put some effort towards it right away. Samantha came to me the other day. I've been on a workout program since December 1st. I think I mentioned working with Brad Dunn from Reliant Fitness, been a friend. I've done some coaching with him. And I jumped in December 1st. But Samantha came to me the other day and she says, hey, let's do 75 hard. I'm like, okay, when? She goes, tomorrow. Sure, let's go. There's no reason not to start immediately. If you're making your mind up to do something, why wait? Because if you're always waiting for a special day to do something, that's the only way you're going to be stimulated if that's how you program yourself. How many people in your life wait for New Year's Eve or for January 1st to start working out? If that's your programming, you're never going to get started because you're always waiting for that special day or occasion to go. And I'm saying, begin taking that action now. Don't wait for a special day. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for the weekend. Don't wait. Just start now and get going. There's plenty of people waiting around to get started. If you started right now, you'd have a day and a half, maybe 2 days ahead of everybody else if you're working against a competitor. Don't wait. I'll give you another example of not waiting. my real estate business, when I built out my goals for the real estate business, I built them out starting January 1, 2025. Okay. And I think I got my license officially in August, landed an office I started working with in September, something like that. Huge learning curve for me. Admittedly, I don't know if maybe Rod, you'll admit this too, but as you get older, it's harder to remember stuff, soak things in, study new terminology. So I knew there'd be a learning curve. So I set my sights on January 1st, right? I've already listed a house for sale and I already put an offer in on another house for a client, which we will close in the next 2 weeks. So now I'm way ahead of that curve because the average transaction time in real estate is about 90 days here in Montana. So that means in March, I could have anticipated making some money had I waited till January 1st with my official business plan. Now I'm going to get paid within the first 2 weeks of January, and I'll probably get paid again based on averages in February for the house that I have listed, right? So if I would have waited, it wouldn't be there. And my point is telling us, start now. Start working your plan now. Don't wait for a date. Don't ever wait for a date. For the rest of your business careers or whatever you're doing, don't ever wait for a date. Do it when you're ready to do it. All right. Third thing, improve the efficiencies of those actions, right? So let me go back to using real estate. 2 months ago, I said, okay, I'm going to actively go out and try to get some listings and build some relationships and, start throwing that question out there. Hey, you looking to buy or sell, right? In my conversations, I'm manifesting that business. And I've already told you the result of that. So now that I've got a little bit of a routine, how do I improve the efficiencies of those actions, right? So before, and you're going to have to think about what your own scenario looks like. Before it was about phone calls or just talking to people that I knew, and I got these 2 deals, right? Well, how do I improve that? Well, what I did yesterday is I was approached about running a statewide ad. Now, I could easily said no, but I thought, wait a minute, that would be stepping up what I'm doing towards my business. And if the ad works for me, then all of a sudden I'm working less on those phone calls and the door knocking and all those other things, right? So I'm trying to improve what I think my own efficiencies are in business. So I pulled the trigger on an ad, right? Also, in our business, it's interesting, I didn't realize it, but realtors are kind of the top of the food chain. Everybody, the bankers, the title company, the appraisers, they all want our business. So they're all doing stuff for us. I went to the title company and said, hey, you mentioned you could help. And they said, yeah, what do you need? I said, well, I was thinking about a very specific mailing campaign. And I'm thinking about homes that are $900,000 and up. And I'm thinking about this specific demographic and area. And they said, yeah, we can generate a mailing list for you. We'll email it over to you. All you got to do is print the labels and write the letter. Boom. I'm using them to improve my efficiencies, right, in that business. So look at your own businesses and ways that you can be more efficient, right? Here's a quote I heard from Alex Hormozy. It says, rich people buy time. Poor people buy stuff. Ambitious people buy skills. And lazy people buy distraction, right? And so if you want to think like a rich person or a wealthy person, buy time. Being efficient is buying time, okay? Being efficient is buying time. And then number 4, make sure you unlock compounding with the things that work. So what do I mean by that? Now I've got phone calls to people I know. I've got emails to people I know. I've got DMs to people I know in real estate. I'm running an ad. Okay, I'm using the title company for mailing addresses. So I've got like 5 things that I'm pushing out. Okay, as those things start to come back or not, I'm going to go, okay, what's working? Well, this specific mailing target audience is working for me. I'm going to go in on that a little bit more and I'm going to build that up, right? And that's what I mean by compounding the things that are working. I'm not going to waste my time with the DMs if nobody's writing me back. Okay. I'm not going to waste my time with social media if nobody's engaging on my real estate business, right? So find the things that work within your business and compound that and do more of that, whatever that looks like. Okay. That way you're seeing the results of things that are working. And that's an action that you can repeat over and over and over again, right? As things work, compound it. As things die off, because they do die off, things change, eliminate that and then compound something else. And you will see your business improve. You will see your plan improve and grow if you do those things. Super easy 4 steps to succeed next year, all while letting outside circumstances not get in your way. All right. Okay, so how do we kind of pull all this together? Then I'll open it up for Rod to make some comments. Think about your time and your energy. I mean, realistically, we vote with our money. Where you spend your money and how you spend your time is really where your plan's at. Okay, so if it's more important to you to go out and have beers with the guys, which is fine, by the way, if that's more important to you than focusing on compounding that's something that's working, at the end of the year, you're going to see, if you look back, like, hey, you know what? I enjoyed the time with my buds and the football games and all these different things throughout the year. So my expectation is I should have less than what I'd hoped to because I voted with my dollars to do those things. If you really, really want to go after something, look at where you're voting with your dollars and what you're doing with those dollars, because that's going to dictate where you spend your energy at, right? So if I look at my dollars where I vote with them, 99% of the time, it's with my family. Doing things that align with our values, right? It's church time, it's activity time, it's time at home, all those things. If I look at how do I elevate my financial success for the year, then I got to look at eliminating some of that, which isn't necessarily bad if you want to work that into what your program is. So as an example on what that might look like, because I know everybody here that talks about, family first, how do you eliminate something with your family and feel good about it, right? We have a plan late March to go on a long vacation and probably to spend a fair amount of money on that. And that's something that as a family, we're looking forward to doing. But the conversations right now is, hey girls, look, as you know, we're looking forward to middle of March to go do X, Y, Z. So between now and then, this is what we're going to do. And these are the things that we might do less of until then. And that way, everybody's bought in on that. Everybody understands the time allocation to achieve that goal in March. And that's how you bring it together while focusing on your values and what's important and looking at some financial success or some rewards that you're hoping to get out of your financial success is by bringing everybody in. So I would encourage you to look at what you're voting for with your money. And hey, don't be disappointed if you get to the end of the year, you're not exactly where you want to be because you've chosen things that you didn't realize are dictating where you want to be, right? Where you spend your money and your time is where you're going to go. So look at your calendars to do that. So there's more on this topic that I want to talk about, but I'm going to stop here and I'll probably pick back up on the next time I run a call. But I really want everybody to kick this year off in the right way as soon as possible without delay. I'll also just tease this a little bit. Next week, Rod is leading the call, and we have some awesome things that we're adding in terms of value to our community here, which will include everybody to a degree to help them really achieve a lot of these things that we just talked about. So I know that was kind of vague, but I got to give you something to look forward to next week when Rod's talking and we're going through it. So Rod, do you want to weigh in on outside circumstances and eliminating that?
Yeah, I do. Boy, you really got my brain going there. So first, you already chummed the waters out there a little bit. So be thinking May 21st through the 23rd, everyone, with your calendars. Just put a little block on that slot. That's happening. What you were talking about, Jim, is something I've preached ever since I was in the military and learned this principle, and it's maximum utilization of available resources. And if you look at everything as a resource and get the most out of every one of those resources, and I know I've talked about this before, but everything you've just talked about is summed up under that heading right there. So that being said, you brought up COVID. And that was a great example because that affected everybody on this call, everybody in the United States, everyone in the world, right? And I shuttered one business from that, and eventually it's closed down permanently because of the COVID. But during that time, I was like, well, what can I do? You know, I'm not just going to sit around and do nothing. I Turoed one of my cars to the tune of about $3,000 per month.
Yeah.
And it's a car I didn't need. Jim, you know that. It's like,
Yeah, I
where's
remember.
the other car? Hey, it's somebody's out paying me to drive my car, right? And that was a resource I had, and I leveraged it. And also at that point in time, new cars were shut down, new car production. There were no rentals out there. People were still vacationing once they were moving again. I made big bank. So, you know, it's just really leveraging everything that you have. And now I'm going to go deeper than that because we're talking coming up to the first of the year. When you guys get off this call tonight, I want you to think about taking an inventory of your personal assets. And what I mean by that is this, not your personal property assets. What are your skills, your knowledge, and your experience? And I want you to just put those down on a sheet of paper and then look at that over the next couple of days and say, how could I turn those knowledge bases, experiences, skill sets into extra income? Who can use what you have? And you may not do anything with it right away, but I'm telling you what, every single one, I know everyone on this call right now, you all have extra skill sets, not just in what you're doing corporately or, you know, for work. You've got other skills and the knowledge you've gained from all the other work you've done. Start itemizing that stuff because that is your resource. That follows you everywhere you go. And there's no better time than to take a personal look at who you are, what you've gained over the course of your life so far and your business experiences and what you could do. So when the chips are down, like Jim did, he sat right at his desk and made, you know, 6 figures. You could do that too, if you wanted to and if you need to. In the meantime, start patting yourself on the back for the leverage you've already created. So that's huge. Making room. This is the one thing I will say about all this too, is you need to constantly make room for contingencies. Jim and I don't know how many times Jim has heard me say this. It's all right, Jim. If I'm nothing, I'm flexible. You need to be able to roll with the punches. You've got all your stuff in order and in line. I guarantee you something is going to happen. A family member is going to get sick. There will be a death in the family. You're going to have a major appliance go out. A car's going to break down. You're going to be in an accident. Something will get in the way. You've got to have a contingency plan ready. And that's typically a mental plan. You just know that you're going to roll with the punches. So know that no matter what jumps out in front of these 4 points with you, no matter what jumps out to step in the way, you're going to be able to adapt and flex and get back into the game. So know that going into this year, nothing can stop you. All right. And then finding that extra time. I like that Hormozi quote. Jim, I've heard that before, but we ought to post that somewhere. So it's, you put it on Instagram or something. We'll all see it there, right? Social media. I'll tell you this. I used to follow football. I used to like watching football. I watched Monday Night Football. Sometimes I'd plug into Thursday night and I'd spend, you know, at least watch one game on a Sunday. When they started kneeling for the national anthem, best thing that ever happened because I stopped watching professional football. I cut it out of my life. You know how many hours that gained me? Count them up. What's a football game? 3 hours, 3.5 hours, you know, and that's sometimes 2 and 3 times a week. What a waste of time, right? That doesn't mean you can't watch it once in a while. I'm telling you what, you can watch highlights and it's just as much fun. You know, instead of waiting for the whole thing, you know, watch the knockout reels instead of watching 15 rounds until somebody gets nailed, right? So there are all kinds of ways we can leverage our assets, including our time. It's not just social media. We can find those places. So make it a point, really take a hard look. What are your assets, your time assets, your personal assets? And if push came to shove, maybe we're all carrying too much clutter. One of the biggest businesses going on here is rent the storage units because everyone has too much stuff. Everyone has to have their stuff in a storage unit. Do we really need that much stuff? You know, maybe it's time that we all just lighten the load just a little bit. So think about that as we go into this next year. Great topic, Jim. I like your 4 bullet points. They're spot on.
Thanks, Rod. Hey, a couple other thoughts here. Had a minute to look back at some of my notes. The reality is it's never been easier to succeed in time. And it's also never been easier to be distracted, right? So we have both those things going for us right now. So when I talk about not being distracted by outside circumstances, I really mean that, because if you want to be successful, that's what it's going to take. Rod, you're right about that football thing. Years ago, I think it was 1988, Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield were speaking, and Jack Canfield, they wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. Jack said, hey, the amount of time that the average person watches TV, you could have 3 master's degrees in a lifetime. I stopped watching TV for 15 years, like literally no TV for 15 years. The whole Sopranos thing, never saw any of it, right? But I was able to do a lot of other things, certainly advancing my career and enjoying life. So if we can find those things that are distracting us, we're going to find the time that we need to accomplish the things what we want to accomplish, right? So like I said, it's never been easier. It's crazy to me. In the last 30 days, I just pulled it up. In the last 30 days, I've had 56,316 views on my Instagram. That's a lot of people being distracted on stuff that I'm putting up there, right? Now, for me, it's a benefit, because if I want to sell something or push something, I know people are looking, but that's a lot of distraction, right? So try to avoid the distraction and know that it's never been easier to succeed with all the tools that we have in front of us, especially the things that are free. And when I say that, you have to look at how bad do I want to succeed? What are you willing to eliminate to get there? For Rod, that was easy. Football. I never watched football. So, Alex, maybe it's, Formula One. I don't know. But look at what you're willing to eliminate to get there. And by the way, that elimination might be temporary. And Alex, you might again appreciate this, is when I knew I needed to stop racing cars, that was really my identity. And I went to my coach at the time, David Meltzer. I said, hey, I'm really struggling with this. I know, because of, the danger involved in my 2 daughters and the amount of money and time away and all these things. The list was long. Well, I knew I needed to stop racing. And Dave's like, Jim, you can stop now. You can always go back to it, right? You can always go back to it. And there's been times where I thought, maybe I'll go back to that. But I've also talked myself out of it, because there's other things to me that are more important. But the point is, if you eliminate something right now, that doesn't mean it's forever. Okay? Doesn't mean Ron has to stop watching football forever, but he's eliminated it, and it's allowed him to do some other things that he's filling that time with. So understand that maybe you're making a sacrifice because you have bigger goals that you want to achieve this year. It's okay. Last thing I'm going to say, and then I'll open up for questions. And if we don't have any questions, then we'll wrap the night. We're kind of in a holiday, strange week. Investing in yourself is probably the most important thing that you can do. Okay? Because you can invest in other things, and they may come or go. They may succeed. They may not succeed. I've got some, virtual coins. I don't have Bitcoin. I wish I did, but I've got some other stuff. I've watched that stuff come and go, vanish in thin air. Some things are doing okay. That stuff's going to come and go. But you know what? Investing in myself is always going to be there. And as long as I have the drive and the energy to continue forward with the things that I'm passionate about, I know that I'm going to find success year after year after year. My personal example of how I invested in myself, well, I invested $1,000 into my education to get my real estate license. I invested another $800 into all the crap you have to have a license, right? I've invested into a computer and a few other things. So let's just call it $5,000 for simplicity, right? I invested $5,000 into my real estate career. Now I've got a tool that I could use for the rest of my life. And by the way, that thing's going to pay itself off 5x on my first transaction. So when I look at that investment, that's a pretty good deal, because everything I make after that, outside of the maintenance of it, I'm making a lot of money on an investment I made in myself through the education I got, right? So always look at ways that you can improve or educate yourself. And kudos to everybody in this group. including my partners, for being a part of this as well. We're investing in ourselves by being here, by building community, by learning from one another, by picking up the phone and calling one another and leaning on each other to be better. This is an investment in ourselves. So good job being here. And I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen next year as we continue to build this community, even if it's just amongst the members that we have now. I would love, if you're a listener only, and I know who you are, I'd love for you owner onlys to be on some of these calls live. And I think when we make some announcements next week, you'll probably want to be on some of these calls. But understanding that sometimes this dialogue that we have face to face really results in better relationships, better questions, better answers, and the opportunity to kind of expand this during the week in between the phone calls. So that's all I got. Questions? Wayne, good to see you. Rod, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I do, and I hope that Heidi can weigh in on this. I'm struggling right now with my sleep patterns, and I've tried all different kinds of stuff outside of drugs, but I'm getting like maybe 4 hours of sleep a night. Part of that's been the weird schedule I've been on, but even prior to that, I was lacking the sleep. And Heidi, I saw on one of your Instagram posts, and I actually commented on it. You said something about that sleep counts as double time between 10 and midnight. And so I'm wondering if that's true, because maybe I'm getting 6 hours instead of 4. So I get it. And anyone who's got some tips on, just getting some more solid sleep. And by the way, I did start 75 hard today. I have a photo to take, and then I'm officially done with day 1. So there you go.
Wow.
So anybody with sleep, Heidi, you're up first on that one, if you will.
Well, my question would be, what time do you wake up? Do you wake up at 3 o'clock? 3 a.m.?
3 or 4.
Our liver does a complete oil flush at 3 a.m. So we might want to talk about like the liver, your health of your liver.
What happens at 3 a.m.?
The liver does a complete oil flush. The liver does a flush. If a person is consistently waking up around that 3 a.m., it's usually because the liver needs help in its detoxifying process.
No,
as well as emotion. The liver holds on to anger.
Okay.
Yep. You
might have misunderstood. I'm getting up. I'm getting up because I have to get up for work. Sorry.
I'm going to call an audible. You guys connect on the phone together when you're not driving, Heidi, because it's hard to hear you anyhow. Rod, I have no idea. I sleep really well. So I think more importantly than the question, obviously we want to solve your problem, is your willingness to ask a question to the group, because as we talk through these things, I think what the real answer is that we've got a resource in Heidi here if you've got health and fitness questions. By the way, I'll thank Heidi publicly. I had a client that really needed some help in the health and wellness arena, and Heidi provided that assistance over the weekend that may have saved this person's life. So that's what we get for leaning into people on this group, as well as for this group being there for one another. So I don't take it lightly that we have a community here, and I appreciate at the time that Heidi didn't take it lightly. And I highly doubt that this person even realized what was happening behind the scenes to support and care on her and get her hopefully where she needs to be. So Heidi, thanks for that.
Welcome.
Okay. All right, guys, look, I'm going to wrap it, and I'm really looking forward to next week. If you need anything in between, we're here. I'm actually, I'm done taking time off and all those other things. So if you need me, I'm working tomorrow. I'm working January 1st because I want to be, and my kids are distracted doing other stuff. If you need me, I'm here for you. So look forward to next week. Rod, thanks for your input. Alex, good to see your face. Jim had to leave early. Wayne, Heidi, everybody else, talk to you next year.
Good night, everyone.